Hello again. Uh, Thank you for joining TEA's 2025-26 HB 1416 Racial Waiver List webinar. We are glad to have you join us. I will start by introducing myself. I am Alicia Garcia. I am the Texas Tutoring and Content Specialist, and I am part of the Texas Tutoring Supports team. I have a few colleagues that I work with. One of them is Isabela Maldonado. She is the Texas Tutoring Project Specialist. I also have the privilege of working with Krista Workman, who is our Texas Tutoring Specialist. And of course, we have our amazing director, Dr. Kobe Sell, and he is the director of the Texas Tutoring Supports. And we are here to provide you with any help you may need in regards to HB 1416 and accelerated instruction. During this webinar, we are going to provide you with an HB 1416 overview and also discuss the racial waiver list. We will look at the HB 1416 racial waiver list evaluation criteria and also share with you the 25-26 racial waiver list products. We'll briefly touch on racial waiver list product implementation and best practices. And we will end by providing you with additional resources that you may find useful in implementing racial waiver list products. We kindly ask that if you have any questions, you please drop them in the Q&A box. That way it gives us an opportunity to capture your question. And if for some reason we're unable to answer them during the webinar, we can provide you with a response via email. A recording of this webinar will be posted on the HB 1416 Racial Waiver List webpage, and we will also provide you with a copy of the slide deck on that webpage. We will try to have that posted by the end of this week, if not by early next week. If you have any follow-up questions, please submit them on our Texas Tutoring Supports help desk. You can find the link on the racial waiver list page, or we have the link here, which will also be available when we post the slide deck on our racial waiver list webpage. Let's start by providing you with an overview of HB 1416. Again, this has been in place for a few years now, but we'll also review just in case you need just a refresher. So Texas law mandates that students who do not approach grade level or higher on a STAR or end of course administration receive accelerated instruction. School systems have the option of fulfilling this requirement in two ways. One, they can use a TIA designated teacher in the applicable subject and grade level. Or they can provide students with supplemental instruction. Students who perform in the high does not meet category are required to receive 15 hours of supplemental instruction. Students who score in the low does not meet category or who have a consecutive school year failure in the same subject area or who fail grade 3 math or reading require 30 hours of supplemental instruction. Now let's discuss the HB 1416 racial waiver list. Statute states that the agency shall approve one or more products who use automated, computerized, or other augmented method for providing individual or group instruction. Products that make this list are products that provide evidence that indicates that the product is more effective than the individual or group instruction that is provided. It is important to note that LEAs may continue to use any curricular tool that meets HB 1416 requirements to support their accelerated instruction. However, only the specific products that are listed on the list for the specific content area are approved through the HB 1416 racial waiver list to qualify for a waiver of the 4:1 student to teacher ratio. Again, if a product is not listed on the racial waiver list, you cannot use them to waive the 4:1 student to a tutor ratio. And again, LEAs can continue to use any curricular tool that meets HB 1416 requirements. You are not required to use a product on the racial waiver list. Products that were eligible for the racial waiver list are products that use automated, computerized, or other augmented methods for providing accelerated instruction, which means that these approved products do not require a live in-person or online educator to deliver the primary mode of instruction. Additionally, these products waive the 4:1 student to teacher or student to tutor ratio. Again, it's important to note that these products are not meant to replace a teacher or classroom instruction. These products are meant to support teacher instruction. So again, teachers are the most important tool that we use to improve student performance, but these products are meant to help teachers target individualized learning or individualized instruction. I'm going to briefly share with you the HB 1416 Racial Waiver List evaluation criteria. So the evaluation was a two-part process. Part one was completed by the Texas Education Agency. We had some prerequisites that vendors had to fulfill, which included attending our webinar so they could have a better understanding of what we were looking for in a product, and to review the vendor application guide to ensure that what they were submitting aligned with what we were looking for. It was important that their product aligned with statutory requirements and strategic focus areas. And additionally, we do require that our products are aligned with the text per applicable subject and grade level. Additionally, we look to see if these products provided emergent bilingual resources for emergent bilingual students. And lastly, we ensured that there was evidence of indicating that the product is more effective than individual or group instruction. At this part, we were not evaluating the evidence, we were just ensuring that the evidence was present. If a vendor met all these requirements, then their product was submitted for part two of the review, which was completed by our third-party review, which was researchers from Texas Tech University. They looked at several components. One was progress monitoring. Did the products offer tools and reports for monitoring student progress for various audiences, such as reports that are specific for teachers and reports that are specific for campus or district administrators? We also looked at student independence. Do these products have effective tools that support student independence? Do they provide the feedback that students need to continue to progress or understand content? Are they able to adjust the content that students are seeing in a timely manner? We also looked at the usage metrics. We ensured that the recommended research-based usage metrics aligned with HB 1416 racial waiver list products. Our Texas Tech also took a look at the research studies. They ensured that rigorous research studies evaluated the efficacy of the product. And lastly, Texas Tech, our third-party review, did evaluate the evidence provided by the vendors that indicated that their product is more effective than individual or group instruction provided by a tutor. Okay, and so now I'm going to go share with you our 25-26 HB 1416 racial waiver list products. We have 3 math products on the list. We'll start with IXL. IXL Math was on the list last year. It's going to continue on the list this year. They are approved for providing supplemental instruction for grades 4 through 11th or Algebra 1. The usage requirement for IXL is 30 minutes twice a week. So again, if your students will be using IXL, they are required to use the product for 30 minutes 2 times a week. Not only will that help them improve on their STAR performance, but this will also allow them to complete the 15 or 30 hours that may be required. Another math product on our list is ST Math. ST Math was also on our list for this school year. ST Math is approved for grades 4 through 8th. The usage requirements for ST Math is 30 minutes twice a week or 2 times a week. Again, you can use ST Math for grades 4 through 8th. Your students must use ST Math 30 minutes twice a week. This usage, once again, ensures that their performance on STAR is impacted significantly, and additionally, it ensures that they meet the 15 or 30-hour requirement. Another product on this list is Zern Math. Zern is new to this list, so they will be part of the list for the 25-26 school year. They are approved for grades 4th and 5th grade. The recommended usage is 30 minutes 2 times per week. Again, we're very excited to have added an additional product for you to use. They, again, will be part of the list for the 25-26 school year. Those are the 3 math products that we have on our racial waiver list. Now we're going to move on to our language arts or RLA products. We have Amira. Amira Learning, distributed by Amira HMH, is approved for grades 4th through 6th. The usage requirements for Amira are 15 minutes, 4 times per week. Again, these are the minimum usage requirements. You can definitely use them for more than this, but again, these requirements again allow that students meet the 15 or 30-hour requirement and significantly impact student outcomes when it comes to STAR. We also have HMH Read 180 Flex. HMH was also part of our list last year, as was Amira. HMH is approved for grades 4 through 11th. The usage requirement for HMH is 20 minutes 4 times per week. Again, this will allow for students to meet the 15 to 30-hour requirement and have a significant increase in their STAR performance. We also have IXL Language Arts. IXL was also on our racial waiver list for this current school year and will be on our list for next year. IXL is approved for grades 4 through 11. The usage requirements for IXL is 30 minutes, 2 times per week. And again, this will allow students to meet the 15 to 30-hour requirement and, of course, see significant increase on their STAR performance. As part of the renewal requirements for vendors who are on the racial waiver list, vendors are required to complete and provide an annual STAR outcomes analysis that evaluates the impact of their product usage on student STAR outcomes. That's why it's very important for your students to meet usage requirements so that we get a clear picture or a fair picture of how impactful the use of this product is on the student's performance. Supplemental math products must be approved through the Instructional Materials Review and Approval, or EMRA, to remain on the racial waiver list beyond the 25-26 school years. So our supplemental math products will be reviewed this summer, and then the State Board of Education will finalize their decision on these specific products, and they'll announce that in November. And so then at that time, we'll know if these products are able to remain on the racial waiver list beyond the 25-26 school year. Supplemental reading products will start to undergo the EMRA process when it becomes available, which is expected in the fall of 2026, to maintain racial waiver list approval in subsequent years. So just know that we have our supplemental math materials on deck this year, and then we'll begin with our supplemental reading products next year. Now we're going to discuss the racial waiver list product implementation and best practices. And these are based on some of the questions that we received throughout the school year. So if you're going to use a racial waiver list product, you must notify parents or guardians that the product on the racial waiver list will be used to provide students with the required accelerated instruction. You are not required to have parents sign the waiver or permission to use this product and then to have the kids return it. All you have to do is you have to notify parents that you are going to be using a racial waiver list product. But again, you're not required to secure a signed parent permission form. It is very important that you ensure that applicable students meet minimum product usage requirements for the approved product. One, to benefit from the weight ratio requirement. Additionally, it's just so that we can make sure that students meet the 15 to 30-hour requirement and to also see the significant impact that these products can have on student performance. It is also important that students complete their required hours of supplemental instruction before the subsequent STAR assessment administration in the spring. So again, even for EOCs, students have until the spring administration to complete the required accelerated instruction. For students who are not testing during the school year, for example, you have a student who fails grade 8 social studies. They do not take an EOC or a social studies test in grade 9, which means that they have until the end of the school year to complete accelerated instruction. But for students who have a STAR assessment during the school year, then they are required to complete all hours prior to the spring administration. It is also important to note that school systems assume responsibility for contracting and funding the selected vendors that are on the TEA list of approved vendors. So again, TEA does not provide any funding for this. This is again between the school system and the vendor. So I want to point out once again that the tools that are approved on this list, when they are implemented effectively with quality educator training and sufficient time in a master schedule, they can reduce educator workload while addressing individual learning gaps in full or high impact tutoring settings. However, the tools that we're providing to teachers are not a substitute for excellent teaching. Okay, so again, teachers are the most important in-school factor impacting student outcomes, and that was mentioned by Hattie, which is correct. Teachers are the game changers, but teachers cannot go home with students. And teachers are at times, they're overburdened. They have so many different students and so many different needs to tend to. So again, the products on the racial waiver list are a tool or a resource that teachers can use to fill individual gaps that students may have, to extend classroom learning, to give students additional practice. So again, we strongly encourage for schools to incorporate a racial waiver list product as part of an extended block or intervention period. And it's also very important that there is alignment with classroom instruction when using these products. And again, the classroom teacher is very vital in ensuring that all this works together and that all this is seamless and that students continue to progress and to show significant growth. One thing that I also would like to point out is that the rule language states that school systems may use a product on the racial waiver list remotely, regardless of the primary mode of instruction, only if the school district ensures that time spent by the student engaged in the product is aligned with approved product usage expectations documented by the school district. So yes, students may use a racial waiver list product at home, but it's very important that teachers monitor the student progress to ensure that students are truly engaged with the product, that are using the product the way it's meant to be used, and that they're not just using a product and guessing responses. Again, this is a tool that can be very impactful on student performance, that can alleviate some of the teacher burden, but it does require for teachers to do some of the progress monitoring and to ensure that students are using the product the way it's meant to be used, and that the lessons that students are completing align with classroom instruction. And the products that are part of the racial waiver list provide teachers with the tools needed to ensure that there is successful alignment and successful implementation. We also have some additional resources that you may find useful. Some of you may already be familiar with these. But first, let's start with our office hours. So, today we're presenting this information to you, but you may have some questions that come to you later on this week. We will host a racial waiver list office hour that is dedicated to addressing any questions you may have regarding the HB 1416 racial waiver list. You can register to join our office hour on Wednesday, April 9th at 10 a.m. The link is also on our racial waiver list webpage, in addition to being on this slide deck that we will post by the end of this week. You can also visit our accelerated instruction webpage or our racial waiver list webpage for any additional information or for any updates that we may have. You will find an FAQ on the accelerated instruction webpage that we periodically update based on the questions that school systems send to us. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to our help desk. We're very responsive, and if there is a question that we cannot answer, we will definitely go back, do the research and come back and give you any responses that you may need. But again, we are here to help and to provide you with any guidance that you may need. So I'm going to stop sharing briefly before I share our last slide with you. Do we have any questions so far on the Q&A? Let's see. This went pretty fast. I see no questions. Okay, so I have one question. If they complete the instruction in other districts and they transfer into a new district, would the new district have to submit the students with the new PEIMS coding? So regarding PEIMS, the school district where the student ends the school year will report all of the accelerated instruction completed. And that includes any that was completed by another school district. So again, the school district in which the student is attending at the end of the school year will submit the cumulative hours. So for example, a student was in school A for first semester, transferred, and then went to school B, completed some hours in school A, let's say 5 hours in school A, 10 hours in school B for a total of 15 hours, then the final school will report the total of 15 hours. So it will be the last attending school district. The ratio waiver list products are not necessary to use if a parent has approved waiving the 4-to-1 ratio, correct? That is correct. However, if you're not using a product that is on the ratio waiver list, you are required to have direct instruction provided by a live in-person or virtual tutor for the instruction. The in-person or virtual tutor can use a different resource as part of his or her instruction, but the direct instruction must be provided by a live in-person or virtual tutor. So then the districts need to be sending to the new district via, yes, districts that are submitting information to the transferring schools should be providing you with accelerated instruction information, and that is a TREX component. Is there an efficient way to transfer hours? Is there a standard form? I believe TREX does ask you specific questions regarding accelerated instruction, but that is a response that I will give back to you, Carrie, because I'm not completely sure how or if TREX has a specific form for you to fill out. So that's one that I will have to come back to. To clarify, we are going to report only the ones actively enrolled on the last day of school. Okay, and I think we've had this question before, but yes, as far as my understanding goes, you are going to report the total hours that the student has completed at the end of the school year. But I will provide you with the final response on that. I'll get back to the PEAMS team to make sure and verify that that is correct, that you're only reporting the ones that are actively enrolled. I will have to get back to you on that one, and I'll make sure that that's part of our office hours as well. If a student has failed a math test, would they have until the start of that testing window, or is it the general STAR window? Okay, so I'm going to assume that this may be perhaps algebra, but for example, if a student fails a grade 8 math, I would say they have until that test, the day of the test, okay? So again, you're trying to prepare them to do better on the STAR test, so you want to make sure that the accelerated instruction is provided prior to the student taking the test. So I don't want to say by that specific day, but I would say that you definitely want to get it done before that testing window. And it could be for the specific math testing window, if you're still providing accelerated instruction during the STAR window. So again, if a student has failed the math test, you have until the start of the math testing window. So we cannot be using the waiver letter anymore. You can use the letter to waive the 4-to-1 student to tutor requirement. However, if you're not using a product on the, let me clarify, let me start over. If you're not using a product that's on the ratio waiver list, then yes, you can continue to use the waiver letter. However, direct instruction needs to be provided by a live in-person or virtual tutor. So the products listed on the ratio waiver list do two things. One, they remove the need to have an in-person or virtual tutor that is live. And two, it removes the need to have the waiver. It removes the 4-to-1 student to teacher ratio. So what I'm trying to say is you can continue to use the waiver letter that removes the 4-to-1 student to tutor requirement, but if you're not using a product on the ratio waiver list, you must still have the tutor providing the direct instruction. Can you please clarify if the student fails 8th grade social studies, when do they have to complete their required hours? Okay, so the student fails 8th grade social studies. In 9th grade, they're receiving accelerated instruction for either world history or world geography. There is no STAR test for world history or world geography. For that reason, they have until the end of the school year to complete the hours. Next question states, so if they withdraw during the school year, we shouldn't report the student as part of PEIM summer. That is correct. The receiving school will be the one reporting them as part of their PEIMS summer submission. So if you have a student that withdraws during the school year, you're not going to be the one reporting the accelerated instruction. The receiving school will be the one reporting the student as part of their PEIMS summer submission. Please verify this for me as well. I would like the email if possible. Okay, Donna, because you're using the Q&A, I should be able to do that for you. If a student uses IXL at home for 20 minutes, are we able to count that toward the required hours? That is correct. If a student is using IXL for language arts or for math, you can count those 20 minutes towards accelerated instruction. And again, I want to verify, we do have some vendors that have, or some products here that have vendors that have products for different subject areas. The racial waiver list works for that specific product, for that specific subject area. So for example, let's say that IXL were to have social studies. They may have a social studies product, but it's not on the racial waiver list. So for that reason, that social studies product does not qualify. So it has to be very specific. So if a student uses IXL for RLA, for language arts, or for math at home for 20 minutes, then you can count that as part of the required accelerated instruction. If a student unenrolls prior to the spring administration and re-enrolls in the fall, are they required accelerated instruction support? Yes. Because they were enrolled in a public Texas school, they are required to receive accelerated instruction. So if they unenroll and miss the STAR test, that is considered a failure. And so it depends on how. If they don't have any score, then I believe they fall under the 15-hour requirements because they were absent. But our FAQ does address that. But yeah, if they were enrolled in a public school at any point during the school year, then they will be required to receive accelerated instruction, and that would count as an absence. Will vendors be reporting individual student hours accumulated to TEA? I will have to get back to you with that response. That is something I will look into. That's a great question. Thank you. Is there a clear and efficient checklist for the person responsible for entering the hours of HB 1416 into PEIMS that can be shared? We are working on that. We have had a school system share with us a template of what that specific school system is using. So we're hoping we can have, it's more of tracking on who completes accelerated instruction and how they're completing it. So we can share that with you. But do we have one that we've created ourselves? No, we do not. But we will share one that a school district has shared with us. And that could probably help you as you're entering your PEIMS reports. A tutor providing direct instruction can use other online tools in their tutoring, correct? Tools on the list? The answer is yes, but it's important to note that the direct instruction has to be provided by the tutor first. And then as part of their tutoring session, students can log on and continue to work on what the tutor had just taught them. But the student cannot just get on the product alone and have a tutor there. No, the tutor has to provide the instruction first. Since we don't have a waiver for science or social studies products, then we still have to use a 4-to-1 ratio letter. Yes, that is correct. We haven't had any products approved for science or social studies. We're hoping that happens one day, but it hasn't happened yet. We're hopeful. I know in Ascender there is a way to document why students didn't receive their required hours. Is there a way that they could add that they transferred in with 0 hours? I don't feel like it's fair to a new school to take. Okay, thank you for that question. And so when you have, there are times when you're going to have a student transfer and they come with no hours, and let's say they have to complete 30 hours, and you're correct, you may not have enough time. So in your PEIMS report, you would select for the reason for difference in hours is the student did not complete hours prior to the test administration. And that's really not a hit on the school district. If TEA were to ever to have a question, all you would have to do is show us a documentation of when the student enrolled. But again, I know that it feels like student did not complete hours prior to a test administration seems pretty negative, but that's not necessarily the truth. For example, you're going to have students who fail in the spring and retest in June and they pass, and you still have to report that, and you're going to select the student did not complete hours prior to the next test administration, but the student's passing score is all the documentation you need as well. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, we understand that some kids are going to come to you maybe a month before the STAR test with no hours. That's not on the receiving school district's fault. So we will consider all that if we were to ever have any questions. So thank you for pointing that out, but I want to assure you that we understand that. We understand that happens. Well, there will be additional training for PEEM summer submission as it relates to HB 1416. I will have to provide you with an answer for that as well. I am unsure, but I'll include that in our office hours, or maybe I'll be able to include a few slides during our office hours to help you have a better understanding, or at least share what I understand in regards to the PEEM summer submission. So I'll see if I can add that to our office hours next week. Since IXL requires 30 minutes twice a week, why we're using it for only 20 minutes count? It varies. Let's just say that the student used it 20 minutes at home and then came back that same week and continued to use it for 20 more minutes. That's a total of 40 minutes. So that's what I'm saying. That's how it counts. Like it really depends, but you could have a student use it. Let's say they're at school and they complete it during an embedded extended period. They complete 20 minutes at school and then they get to go home and complete 20 minutes at home. Then you have a total of 40 minutes. So actually the student went over the required, I'm sorry, it's 30 minutes twice a week, so that would be an hour. It could be 20 minutes at home and 40 minutes at school. So you can come up with creative ways. We have had, for example, school systems that provide the students with a live tutor once a week at school, and they'll do a 30-minute session during the school week at school, and then the students go home and do 30 minutes on a racial waiverless product, and that equals to an hour. So you can get creative on how you best provide this instruction to students. But that's one way where you could do 20 minutes at home and maybe 40 minutes at school, or they're doing 3 20-minute sessions, 2 20-minute sessions at school, 1 20-minute sessions at school at home. So it just depends. Would you mind posting your responses to these questions? I can include some of these during our office hours as our, FAQs, and then I can post that deck on our webpage. But the office hours not until next week, April 9th. And so it will probably be at the end of next week as well. So could we use IXL for science and social studies if we got the waiver signed? You could, but you still need to have the direct instruction provided by the live, in-person, or virtual tutor. So you could still use that IXL as a resource, but direct instruction must come from the in-person tutor or a live virtual tutor. Will these questions be included in the Q&A document? I believe so. And that would be like for our office hours. Those that are, being asked constantly or that are really important, we'll post on our FAQ for our office hours next week. Will students who work on IXL during the academic day, do those minutes go towards the required minutes? That depends. If they are working on IXL as part of an extended block or as part of a intervention period, then yes. We do have some schools that have an embedded, it's called like embedded enrichment / academic period that they have embedded during the day, then yes, that can count. But if you're using part of your tier 1 instruction class minutes, then no. At this point, that's not counting. Again, it's IXL being used during the day as part of an extended block or as part of an intervention block. Can you please post these questions in an FAQ on the TA website? Diana, I'm not sure. I'll look into that. But again, just know that we do have our help desk. You're more than welcome to send us this question via email, and I will respond to these questions. Okay, thank you. That template, and it's not necessarily a PEAMS template, let me clarify. It's more of a tracking template to track the accelerated instruction that students are receiving. And if you use this template as part of your tracking system, then it should help make in submitting this information on your PEAMS system. It should make it a lot easier. What to do with a student who withdrew in October, going back to their home country and came back in February? Do we select students did not complete the hours before next administration as well? Every situation is different. You have some options here. You can select students did not complete the hours before the next administration, or you can also select withdrew because the student did withdraw for a significant amount of time. They came back to you, but they did withdraw. And I think withdrew is one of the reasons that you can select. So in this situation like this, because a student withdrew and was gone for a significant amount of time, you can select that as your reason as well. Will a district receive feedback on the PEAM submission? I do not know the answer to that question, but I can definitely get back to you on that. So we don't have to do the full 30 minutes each time for IXL. We can do 20, 20, 20, correct? If it doesn't say that on the usage guide. So, okay, so IXL, what our vendors did, they provided minutes, and some of these minutes are based on like lessons, right? And they would, let's say IXL is asking you to complete 3 lessons a week. These lessons average 30 minutes, but sometimes they could be 20 minutes. So you're correct. You can do 20, 20, 20 as long as you're completing that hour that IXL is asking for. So again, it's just we're trying, like I guess some of these vendors have lessons or they have games or they have modules that kids get to complete. The times that we given, they're very close approximations. Some of your kids may take longer than 20 minutes because you don't want them to stop in the middle of a lesson, and some of the kids may take less than 30 minutes. So that's okay if you adapt it just a bit based on your student need. Are programs like Edmentum considered live virtual tutors? If there is a person like me and I'm talking to a student delivering that instruction live, then Edmentum is considered a live virtual tutor. But I'm not familiar with what Edmentum provides, so I don't want to provide you with the definite yes or no. I just want to tell you that a live tutor would be me, and I'm providing tutoring to a student who's on the other side of the screen, and I'm teaching them live and answering questions live. Can you confirm students can earn AI time if they use any approved waiver list products on their own from home? That is correct. For example, if a student is using, let's say ST Math, and they're using ST Math or Zern Math or IXL Math at home, that can count. It's just very important that we're not just checking a box here. It's important that when students are assigned lessons to complete at home, that they're assigned lessons that are meaningful and that align with what's happening in the classroom so students can access a grade level content. And so it's important that, teachers are maybe at the end of the week monitoring the progress that students have made in their lessons. So again, these products are not meant to help you just check a box that students completed requirements that you're, in compliance. It's more of actually helping students continue to grow and continue to access grade level content grade level content. So please, yes, they can use this at home. It could be their homework, but it's very important that teachers and schools are very intentional on how they're allowing students to use these products at home. Can time in these tutoring times be counted for instruction time in optional flexible school day program? I believe so, but let me get back with you on that. But I believe it depends on how that optional flexible school day program is designed, but I believe so, but I want to make sure, and I will provide you with an answer to that question. So thank you for that. If I came late, if our district uses IXL, can we dedicate an intervention time for students to complete? And will the 4-to-1 ratio, or will we be allowed more than one person? So if you do have an embedded intervention time for all students, not just for racial waiver students, but for all students, then yes, you can use that time for students to log on to IXL, and you don't have to have the 4-to-1 ratio. IXL language arts and IXL math are part of the racial waiver list, so you don't have to have the 4-to-1 ratio for that. So yes, you can have more than one person per session because remember, these programs used use an automated method to provide instruction. So it's pretty much students have like their own individual tutor, but this happens to be one that is automated. Would that withdrawal answer refer to the student that withdrew and left the state for an extended period of time as well? Yes, that could be. You have a student who is with you. Let's say they're with you through even through mid-December. They withdraw and come back beginning of March. Well, there's just no way for you to let me say, like, let's say they leave in October and then they come back mid-March. That's just almost impossible. So if the student leaves for a significant amount of time, that would make it impossible for you to provide the required accelerated instruction, then you can use the withdrew reason. Can we go over an hour a week to make up hours lost due to attendance? Yes, yes, you can. But again, it's very important that you are monitoring student usage and that you're being very intentional on what you're letting students do. Some students are capable of completing more than 1 hour and they're still focused and they're still learning. Whereas you have others that 30 minutes is all they can give you because after that, they're going to lose engagement. And so that's the most important thing, that students are fully engaged and that they are making gains as they're using the product. Will there be a spot in PEAM summer upload for science and social studies this year? We were totally focused for math and reading. There is a spot for science and social studies this year. There is. So you'll have a list initially when you're reporting accelerated instruction. You're going to report the subject area, which would be math, reading, science, or social studies, and then you will report participation. So I want to clarify something too then. For example, the statute does state that you're limited to 2 subject areas. So if you have a student who fails math, reading, and science, well then math and reading, they take priority. So in that case, you'll report science, but then in participation, you would select student does not participate because they are participating in 2 other subject areas. So you would still report it that the student should be should be receiving accelerated instruction in science, but when you go to participation, you're going to select student does not participate because they are participating in 2 other subject areas. Thank you for all these questions. Again, we will try to include as many as we can as part of our office hours, but again, we're going to focus more on those that are pertinent to the racial waiver list, and then if time permits, we'll add these other questions that you have. And again, please feel free to email us these questions via our help desk. And as you submit these questions to you, I'll provide you with an answer. But if this is something, the question you submit is something that pertains to several school districts, then I'll make sure that I'll add that as part of our office hours. Thank you, Diana. And it could be that for those of you that attended, I'll create an FAQ document and I'll send it out to all of you since we do have your email addresses. We captured those when you registered. So thank you for that. I am going to post, did you say in the beginning that this recording will be posted or just a slide deck? I am going to post the recording and the slide deck. So I'm going to post both, and they will be posted on our racial waiver list webpage, not on the accelerated instruction. But when you go to accelerated instruction webpage, it does give you a link to our racial waiver list webpage. So we'll have that link for you. Are we required to create plans still for those students? So accelerated education plans are required for students who have consecutive school year failures in the same subject area. So those are still a requirement for students who have failed, who have a consecutive school year failures in the same subject area. So HB 1416 requirements have not changed. Nothing has changed. The only thing is that these racial waiver list products provide you with a different method of providing instruction. It, again, removes the 4-to-1 student to tutor ratio requirement, and it removes the need to have a live in-person or virtual tutor. But I will emphasize that they're not meant to take the place of great teaching. As we are waiting for other questions to pop up, I'm going to share my screen, so I won't be able to see questions for a little bit. Please take time to give us feedback. Feedback is a gift. that we all welcome here at TEA. Please let us know how we did during this presentation. There's the QR code. We have the link there, but please take time to let us know how we did. And if you have any other suggestions on what we could provide or how we could better support you, please let us know. That is what we're here for.